Well, hello there to my she's, gays, and theys. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a video essay for you, and we are going to be talking about the strengths and weaknesses of the Villains Alliance from DISVENTURE Camp All-Stars. I came up with this concept fairly recently, and I really wanted to deep dive into the Villains Alliance as a whole because it's a concept that really just fascinates me. So yeah, I'm very excited to talk about this with you, and I figured since we're halfway through the season, this would be a good time to really take a good look at it. I hope you guys enjoy this type of scripted content from me. I don't really do it all that often, but I love to write, and I love making these types of videos, and I love writing scripts for these videos. I am happy to take any constructive criticism that you may have on my scripts, as long as it's not rude or mean. But yeah, let me know how I did. I would love your feedback. If you like this type of content and want to see more of it from me, make sure to hit that like button and maybe consider subscribing if you want, no pressure. But if we hit 3,000 subscribers, I have a very special announcement that I've been dying to share with you. It's basically about what I've been working on for the past few months, and I am just dying to share it with you. So we're getting kind of close. Let's get to 3,000 so I can finally get this off my chest, please. But without further ado, let's get into the video essay. DISVENTURE Camp All-Stars so far has implemented a plethora of storylines for fans to indulge themselves in, with its largest cast to date peaking with 18 fan-favorite contestants. There's a little bit of something for everyone. A love triangle that kinda sucks, newfound self-discovery stories radiating main character energy, new lovable friendships, new steamy rivalries, and plenty of drama. However, one of the most exciting new additions to the season is the Villains Alliance, consisting of Alec, Riya, Yule, Grett, Ellie, Fiori, and eventually Gabby. The Villains Alliance has quickly become a powerhouse of a group, and something that was on a lot of fans' wish lists for the All-Star season. Of course, Total Drama All-Stars also played off the theme of heroes and villains, so likewise, DISVENTURE Camp was also going to borrow the concept, gathering up its most villainous, morally great characters into one ruthless force of strategic entertainment. However, this alliance is nowhere near perfect, and that's something I wanted to talk about. In this video, I will be diving into the strategic strengths and weaknesses of every member of the Villains Alliance individually, as well as the alliance as a whole, as of episode 11. This video does have the potential to age quite poorly as the season continues, so just keep in mind that this is pre-episode 12 and subject to change. Or it could age perfectly, and I can predict the future. We'll see. I'm going to start with the individual members. Keep in mind, this is not how I feel about the characters. This is the pros and cons their characters have in the game and the alliance. Let's start with my least favorite of the bunch, which is of course, Yule. Yule is in the Villains Alliance mainly because he's an asshole and no one likes him. He's caused some mischief in his own season, playing the manipulative game with Aiden and James in season 2, earning him a poor reputation. Yule does not give a singular fuck about the well-being of others, leaving him with absolutely no limit to how dirty he can play. His chaotically evil energy comes as no surprise to others, but at the same time causes whiplash. Some of the shit he does and says is unfathomably fucked up, to the point where people like Grett and James don't believe it's actually how he feels. Speaking of Grett, strategically his relationship with her, as toxic and awful as it is, acts as a shield for Yule in the game. At least in the beginning, when he seemed more genuine with it. Yule and Grett are seen more as a unit and fly under the radar because of it, although that could very well come back to bite both of them in the ass later on. Yule heavily relies on Grett's complacent attitude and loyalty to him, allowing him to sit comfortably in the game. If Grett ever decides to turn on him, which I'm certain she will, that safety net is gone. Sure, Yule doesn't give a fuck, and that works in his favor, but that's also a huge weakness for him too. Because there are no limits to his poor behavior, he's completely closed off the chance of making any new allies. He plays very emotionally, carries way too many grudges, and is incredibly aggressive to even his own alliance. Him and Riya are constantly fighting, Gabby and Alec are far from pleased from his treatment of Grett, and Grett herself is showing a few signs of doubting him. Yule doesn't have any kind of insurance to fall back on if he goes too far. So although his chaos adds shock value to the villains, Yule is in a very volatile position overall. Next up, we have Mother. Riya. Riya is actually sitting quite pretty right now strategically. She just won immunity for the upcoming challenge and is overall quite strong when it comes to challenges. She made it to the finale in Season 2 for a reason. She is fully aware of the line between creating strong bonds with other players and using those bonds to her own advantage. Well, except when it comes to Connor, but that's beside the point. Riya is also intelligent enough to carry herself when necessary. She doesn't let her own emotions get in the way of what the right play is, but knows when it's okay to be a little more emotional. For example, she's been bickering with Yule since the beginning, but hasn't made the move to vote him off because she knows it would only hurt her in the long run. Yes, she made the move to vote for him in episode 4, but she didn't get the rest of the alliance involved in doing so. But she refused to put up with his behavior with Grett, going as far as to take her out of the situation and tell her exactly what Grett needed to hear and strengthen her bond with her. This was such a good scene for Riya. God, I love it. She also has a strong bond with Alec, which has benefited them both greatly so far. But Riya lacks subtlety. She is very outwardly bitchy. She is not afraid to show that. Similar to Yule, gaining new allies is a struggle for her due to her shitty attitude. The likelihood of her regaining Connor's trust is slim to none at this point. The damage has been done and there is no going back. If she's pushed to the brink, she will likely fall apart and crumble. Riya's whole complex is wildly fascinating, and I'd be down to do a whole video on her. I'm sure Emer from Golden Goose Productions would love that. Hi Emer, hope I did your girl justice. Now, similar to Yule, Grett is also seen as part of this unit with Yule, and flies under most people's radars at the moment. Grett is fairly well-rounded of a player, especially with her improvement in behavior. She's nowhere near as ruthless as the rest of the villains, and isn't seen as a threat much in comparison. But she's still intelligent and knows what strategies are best for the Alliance, acting as one of the very few voices of reason within it. She's very cooperative with the Alliance, rarely ever causing problems with other members. Well, except for Yule, which is of no fault of her own, of course. Yule's treatment of Grett could lead to someone from the heroes to take pity on her, and wanting to help her in any way they can. This, if played correctly by Grett, could be huge for the villains' alliance. However, Yule's anger towards her could also be seen as a definitive weak spot that the heroes can target later on. Turning Grett against Yule and vice versa could be devastating for the hopes of keeping the alliance together, and an upper hand that the heroes desperately need. Grett is a pushover when it comes to Yule, feeding into whatever his sick little mind wants, and even when people like Gabby try to step in and intervene, Grett is stubborn in her devotion. Unless she allows the other members of the alliance to help her in a safe environment, Yule could become Grett's ultimate downfall, not only in the villains' alliance, but also in her personal growth. Honestly, sometimes I forget that Ellie and Fiori were part of this too. But Ellie did what she could when she was here, and essentially set the villains up for success early on. Ellie had the advantage of being on the same team as Tom and Aiden, who were incredibly easy to manipulate in the beginning stages of the game. She also had Tess and Gabby as a safety net for a while. Gabby has unconditional love for Ellie, and that helped her stay out of the danger zone for quite a while. Meanwhile, Tess was indecisive until it actually mattered, buying Ellie precious time to mess with Tom, Aiden, and Jake. She played much more low-key than a lot of the other villains, and while she did argue with her team a few times, not everyone on her team hated her right away. Hence why the Girls' Alliance even got created. That alliance in conjunction with the Villains' Alliance could have been so powerful. But that leads into where Ellie went wrong. She went against her team way too soon, and ultimately screwed herself over even after joining the Villains Alliance. She played more for her own entertainment rather than for the good of her position in the game. I honestly think she also spent way too much time looking for the immunity idol, when it hadn't even been put into play yet, and it still hasn't! For all we know, there isn't one at all, and all that time Ellie spent looking for it was wasted when she could have been strategizing with the villains. Thankfully, Ellie's downfall led to Gabby's arrival into the Alliance, and some of their strongest plays, so I suppose Ellie served her purpose. Speaking of Gabby, let's talk about how awesome she's been in the Villains Alliance. She is definitely the wild card. If Yule is an agent of chaos, Gabby is the queen of chaos. We never know what to expect from her, since she was never originally a villain to begin with. But since Ellie's departure from the competition, Gabby's psychotic need for revenge has done nothing but benefit the villains so far. She has been more than willing and eager to help the villains pick off everyone that's done her and her girl wrong. This, in turn, makes her the perfect tool for them, and she is very easy to convince. Her vote is incredibly easy to secure, which is wildly important for them in the late game. But Gabby is a risky tool to use too often. Gabby can honestly flip on a dime if she wanted to, as she has threatened to leave due to Yule's shitty behavior towards Grett. Speaking of Grett, if Gabby doesn't end up befriending and making amends with her, that could also lead to another breaking point. Let's not forget that Ellie's word is basically the gospel to her. Ellie warned her in episode 11 to not get too comfortable in the Villains Alliance. That idea is going to come back, and Gabby will listen to it since it came from Ellie's mouth. Gabby is the definition of playing emotionally. Her vote almost always comes from the heart, and that could screw the villains over if they target the wrong person. This is especially true now that her own personal demons are starting to return. She contrasts so much from the other villains, which could lead to the same treatment she had on her own team, being ostracized and left out of discussions and plans. And once Gabby's revenge spree is over, then what? She'll have no reason to stay in the Alliance once Aiden and Tom are picked off. Gabby could either be the downfall of the Villains Alliance, or the Villains Alliance could be the downfall of her. Guys, I miss Fiori. I miss Fiori so much. She was robbed. I wish Fiori had done more in the Villains Alliance. It really kills me that she barely did anything. Fiori has proven time and time again that she is a master strategist and knows exactly how to play the game. She dominated in Season 1 and knows how to get into people's heads, which she did with Jake before being booted. She was also able to inform Riya of Connor leaking the existence of the Villains Alliance to the other teams, preparing them for scrutiny and allowing them to readjust accordingly. Sure, her manipulative tactics didn't work in the end, but she certainly had more of an effect on Season 2 characters like Alec, who was actually willing to work with her at one point. The reason she lasted as long as she did was because, well, she's just a kid. There were bigger threats than her at the time, allowing her to slip under the radar. Overall, though, Fiori's game was tarnished the second she stepped foot on that plane. The Season 1 cast, including Alec, knew damn well what Fiori was all about, and her team was keen on targeting her immediately, had it not been for Jake's impulsive behavior and Alec's assistance on that. I think another massive disadvantage Fiori had in the Villains Alliance was that she wasn't taken as seriously as she should have been. Riya was not cooperative with her when she needed her to, and although Alec helped her from time to time, he still carried a bit of a grudge for her up until episode 11. Had she returned to the game, she and Alec would have regained that glorious game they played in Season 1, and Fiori could have meshed really well with the others too. Oh well, she was great while she lasted. Last but certainly not least, we have the captain of this ship, my beloved Alec. Call me biased, but Alec is hands down the strongest member of this alliance in almost every single aspect. Like Fiori, he is also a master strategist, and debatably the smartest person in the entire game. Prove me wrong. He knows exactly what he's doing and knows how to play low-key, which is a vital strength he's always had. He flies under the radar while still stepping on people's toes without them noticing that it was him who did it. Alec has gotten so far into Jake's head and it's caused so many eliminations. James, Hunter, Ashley, to name a few. Alec himself has also caused plenty of eliminations on his own, but no one has put that together yet. Alec is the glue of this alliance, the leader, the founder. Without Alec keeping Riya and Yul from killing each other, sticking up for Grett when needed, and welcoming Gabby with open arms, there is absolutely no way this alliance would still be alive. He's not creating enemies within his alliance, nor is he going out of his way to mess with the heroes. He's doing just what he needs to keep the alliance going strong and turn the heroes against each other. Yeah, okay, I know, I'm raving about him, but he, contrary to what you may think, isn't perfect. Once the heroes realize that Alec is the leader of the Villains Alliance, and they pull their shit together, Alec is going to get targeted. He's been shown to be getting quite cocky about how the villains are doing, which is valid, of course, but he shouldn't be getting too comfortable, especially with Connor and Riya both having immunity next round. Alec also isn't the best actor. Getting new allies is a bit tricky at times for him. As good as he is at this game, it hasn't warranted him the best reputation, albeit not as awful as others. Alec in episode 12 in particular is in grave danger, considering it's episode 12 and Father's Day. I'm scared, to say the least. My fingers are crossed, but once Alec's gone, I think the whole alliance crumbles from there. All the members of the Villains Alliance have their strengths and weaknesses, of course, but it's those traits coming together that form the brutal unit that is the Villains Alliance. I want to discuss why the Villains Alliance as a whole works, and what could take it down. The biggest strength of the Alliance as a whole is in the sheer number of members. Especially now that we're in the merge, DISVENTURE Camp is a numbers game. The more people who vote together, the stronger they will become. I believe that this was the concept the Purple Team Alliance failed to see in Season 1, and ultimately where they fell apart. Will's outburst caused Nick to turn on his alliance early on, which made their promising group of 4 crumble right into Fiori, Alec, and Ellie's clutches. Lil and Ashley were unable to convince Ellie to vote with them because she and Alec were quickly isolated and pretty much abandoned, leading Ellie to vote against them when it mattered most. The Purple Nurples were fragile from conception and failed because they couldn't put aside their differences and vote collectively. This is why the Villains Alliance works so well. Yes, Yul and Riya hate each other. Grett lacks a backbone. Alec, Fiori, and Ellie all have their differences, but you know what? That doesn't matter in this game. Yul and Riya have consistently put their differences aside when it matters. Ellie and Fiori reluctantly agreed to help Alec, because strategically, it benefits all of them, and they know that. Speaking of Ellie and Fiori, the alliance spanned across all 3 teams, which widened the pool of players for them to mess with. In the early stages of the game, they all remained low-key and didn't make any scandalous moves until it was absolutely necessary, snaking in for the clean kill. The majority of plays that they've made so far have been brilliant. A highlight for me was their decision to take out Ashley in episode 10. It would have been so easy for them to target Jake, since he had become unhinged quite quickly and painted a massive target on his own back. But instead, they took notice that Ashley was the one keeping Jake stable, and his rift with Aiden actually benefited them more. These are the types of strategies I live for in these types of shows. This is how you play. I also want to take a second to hop back on the Alec simp train and talk about his initial pitch for the Villains Alliance, and how brilliant it is. We're going to go through this point for point. He starts out by owning up to the fact that the people that he's gathered here is not the most beloved group. He doesn't try to deny that the 6 of them have done some shitty things and are overall shitty people. He's not being deceptive about that, nor is he being deceptive with them about anything. Because of this, he's fully aware that this has painted targets on them by default. This is the initial problem that the Villains Alliance was made to solve. The Villains Alliance was created as a means of defense, protection from future votes, and erase the targets that they came with. Although some of them are a bit hesitant at first, Alec, Riya, and Grett all know that sticking together as a team will benefit them all in the long run, which it has. Alec continues to explain that everyone on the Alliance has a reputation for stirring up trouble, and it's time they own up to it. Their goal is to turn the others against each other, not against them, which is so fucking smart. So despite Ellie and Fiori being alone on their own teams, they can both still get into the heads of their teammates, which both of them have proven to do quite well. As Riya put it, the Villains Alliance was created to divide and conquer the playing field. This scene shines. This pitch sold me immediately and continues to be such a highlight for the season. Ever since this scene, the villains have done exactly what Alec pitched to them, letting the heroes turn on each other and bicker while they get to sit back and pick off whoever they want, whenever they want. Now, how do the heroes come back from this? What could possibly cause the downfall of this diabolical kingdom? Let's start off easy and be honest. These people all fucking hate each other. It is only a matter of time before somebody cracks and betrays someone. I think Ellie in episode 11 phrased it quite well. There's no honor in thieves. Who will betray first is beyond me right now, and when they will, even more so. But with a group as petty and confrontational as this, it's inevitable. Ellie and Fiori are already out, and they didn't get to do much of anything with this alliance. But that was more due to their own teams voting them out rather than any fault of the villains. But I am of the strong belief that if Ellie and Fiori had one additional person on their teams that was in the alliance as well, they would have lasted so much longer. Like, if Gabby had been recruited from the get, Ellie would have had an even stronger protection. Fiori, I think she was honestly screwed either way, but whatever. Those were some brief moments of the heroes actually pulling their shit together and voting competently. If they continue to do that, the villains will be in for a good fight. I think a major catalyst for this fight is going to be Connor's return. I know it doesn't seem like it right now, but I think the villains should worry about Connor. Not only was he the one to rat out the alliance to the other two teams, but he has a strong grudge against Riya, one of the strongest members. But he's also personable and kind to the others, which could lift them out of the rut they've gotten themselves into. The only way the villains could possibly get out of this is if Alec somehow miraculously makes amends with Connor, which I doubt will happen. This is mostly why I worry for Alec next episode. God, my fingers have never been so crossed. Once someone from this alliance is out, it's going to fall apart from there. Their confidence is going to waver whether they want to admit it or not, and they're going to get testy with each other because of it. They are throwing stones within a glass house. One impactful shot and the whole structure will shatter, regardless of who's first to go. If it's Yule, Grett will be upset. If it's Alec, Riya will be upset. So on and so forth. They are a ticking time bomb, one that the heroes need to ignite sooner rather than later. In summary, I absolutely adore the Villains Alliance, if you couldn't tell. Every member has their entertainment value, their strategies continue to excite and amaze me, but their inevitable downfall keeps me on the edge of my seat every episode. The Villains Alliance is easily one of the best storylines in all of DISVENTURE Camp. It is a force to be reckoned with, but there are also imperfections that are fascinating to dissect and theorize to. I'd love to know your thoughts on the Villains Alliance in the comments. Let's get a good discussion going. Who are your favorite members? What are your favorite plays from them? How do you think they'll go down? Honestly, I love reading your comments. It's one of the most rewarding parts of making videos. It boosts the video too, so we love that. Slay. I definitely have a villain bias, and I really hope one of them comes out on top in the end. But right now, only time will tell. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. That is my little halfway point analysis of the Villains Alliance, why it works, and what could break it. I really enjoy making scripted content. It's super fun. I love writing. It's a little tricky to record sometimes, but I still have a blast doing it. But I'm curious to know what you guys think of this type of content. If you like this scripted content, let me know. Or do you prefer my more unscripted podcasty reaction type of videos? I'm here for you guys. Whatever you guys want, I'm willing to do. Just let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback. Before I end the video, I of course want to give my thank yous to Odd Nation Cartoons as always. Thank you for creating Disventure Camp. Thank you for giving me these types of topics to talk about. I love talking about what you guys are creating. It's genuinely so inspiring, and I hope you guys continue to create. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you want to directly support Disventure Camp, you can subscribe to their Patreon. I have that linked always in my description. You can get access to episodes early, as well as assets and backgrounds and other fun perks from the show, as well as access to certain Discord channels in their Discord. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you making it all the way to the end of the video. And until next time, hopefully I will not be a mess from episode 12, but we'll just have to see. Until then, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye!